Okay. What'd you say? My teacher voice? I've lost my teacher voice. So, first of all, is there any Jimmy Fallon fans out there? I love watching Jimmy Fallon. One of my favorite things he does is his thank you notes. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Like he writes he writes like a thank you note to something random. Like my favorite that I saw recently was he wrote a thank you note to the hand sanitizer dispenser for giving me 90% of the 99 germs that you kill. You know, like just kind of like a little random like thank you note. And I love that. And the thing about thank you notes and words of affirmation that I think is hilarious is, yes, we talked about that if you were here a couple weeks ago. Physical touch was my number one. We started the entire series with that. We're ending with my number two of words of affirmation. Both of them are extremely high compared to all the other silly people that how you feel love in other ways. I was actually watching an interview as they were talking about the 5 love languages, and one of the guys was talking about words of affirmation, and his question was, he goes, I don't understand why people need words of affirmation. It is the dumbest way to feel love. And like, I felt like my blood was boiling. I'm like, how dare you call me out on the way that I feel love? Like, and he's like, who cares if somebody says, what does it matter what other people think of you? You should just ignore it and all that. And like, I ended up having to turn off the video. Like it was like Dr. Chapman and this guy, and I had to turn it off because I was so mad. Like, you know, when you see a political thing where it was like that anger I had towards that guy because he was bashing my love languages. And I did end up going back to it and watching, like, as Dr. Chapman explained and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I feel a little bit better. Like, he brought us back to the middle. But, like, thank you notes are such an important thing. Thank you, words of thank you. I'm beyond blessed. As Jamie and I talked about this, like, we're a week away from our 1 year. Like, a year ago at this time, I was freaking out. There was mowers in here still. Like, there was shelving units. Like, I didn't know how we were going to have a church here. A lot of you came and like helped clean and do all this stuff, and we put together this. And I'm continued to be thankful for weird random things. Like I felt horrible because I didn't even notice that somebody, I knew they were going to work on it eventually, but we have heat back here now. I didn't turn it on because I thought it was broken. But anyways, like this winter, we're not going to like be freezing. There's 2 heat ducts out here to blow heat into this room. Like it's going to be, we won't have to wear parkas this winter. It's a whole different, right? Like I'm excited for the things that people do. And I'm so appreciative, but I'm also horrible at thank you notes. This week we talked about this. We talked about one of our friend's son who graduated last year, and he still has all of the thank you notes to send out from his open house. And I sat there, and everybody else like, yeah, he should have done it. And I remember riding to college in the minivan with my mom and sister and filling out my last of my thank you notes to send back to my sister so she would put them in the mail for me. Like I'm just not good at that. I true confession time. I had this great idea, last December that I was going to write a thank you note to everybody that helped out one church get started. The other day, Melissa, we found a stack of those thank you notes that I did, about 10 of them, and we never mailed even the 10 I did. So there's a thank you note that's a year old that may go out, right? Like it's hard to remember that. It's not that I don't appreciate it. It's not that I don't love those thank you notes. I've said that before. I have a file folder of thank you notes that what they mean to me. This week alone, Jamie and I got a gift and a thank you note from somebody about just being here and being part of this church. And I was sky high. It was like awesome to get that note, those words. And it's something that's so important to me. I love, but I'm so horrible at giving it away. And that's that thank you note. It's that entire thing. And I had teased the dad because he was talking about his son's thank you notes, and I'm like, if only he knew, because his open house, my wife, I love her dearly, but she threw away somebody else's gift for that kid, and we had to dig through the trash. So if we knew the amount of trash digging that we had to do to find his gift, I'm sure he would have already wrote the thank you note. But he right? Like, but you're 18, you're, no judgment, soon to be seniors, but get your thank you notes done. Don't wait. Then I'm not giving you a gift this year, Spencer. How do you like that? You get a thank you. No, you get your gift when I get a thank you note. We're going to do it all backwards. But no, we're just like, right? Like we do that. And we get so caught up in those things, and life gets in the way. And I don't know about you, but there's been multiple times that I've told people, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Jamie and I will talk about somebody. I'm like, I don't know if they even realize how much they mean or how grateful we're out for that. But yet we don't share it with that person, right? Like we hold that back. And it's like, no, the words are so vitally important. So Jamie, here are your 3 big keys from this week's reading. You got your notes? Things for somebody that loves words of affirmation. Number 1 is tone matters. I joke and that Jamie, I shared this a couple different times now. Jamie has been known to start a sentence with, I'm affirming you by telling you this. And I tell her, it doesn't work. You can't start the sentence with, I'm affirming you, because you need to hear, at words of affirmation, I'm affirming you. You can't start. Tone matters, right? Like I can't go, wow, you look really, really good today. You're not going to believe me if I say that, right? Like tone matters, how you say it. We share that all the time. Like as we're going in and doing this Lunch Buddies program, part of the training was so important. One of our friends, when we did the training years ago, she would always say different stuff with the kids, and she would always go, kids don't hear their name spoken in love. Some kids that you're going to interact with never hear their name spoken in love. The only time they ever hear their name is being yelled at, screamed at, whatever, or being in trouble, especially some of those troubled kids in school. I really want to pick on you, Owen. Owen, did you ever hear your name in love growing? No, I'm just kidding. Right? Like as a kid, they don't hear their name in love, right? They attribute their name to being something bad. Tone matters. Say what those words of affirmation in a way of love so that it's known. Be creative. It doesn't have to just be, I affirm you because. Like, be creative. Find a way to... I feel like this is jabs at my wife, and I promise it's not. She's like sliding down. It's not. I mean, again, we have 2 polar opposites, and we've made it 13 years. We're going to keep going. But to understand, be creative. Understand also that what happens for a person of words of affirmation, for all gifts, but Dr. Chapman really said in words of affirmation, is they count on those because they begin to doubt who they are. Words of affirmation, more than any other of the 4 love languages, words of affirmation, they count on those words to know who they are. That is huge. As I read that, I was like, that's true. Like, yes, as much as, the childhood part of me where, my parents would say, what they say doesn't matter. A words of affirmation person, it does. They count on those words to know who they are. So, the downside in that if a person of words is not receiving that, they start to lose their identity. And I don't know about you, but maybe if you're a words of affirmation person, you see that. I look back at seasons of my life where I started to lose my identity. I wasn't receiving the words from a place of employment. I wasn't receiving the words it was a tough season of life. And when I didn't have those words, I started to lose the identity of who I was. I started to doubt that I was good enough at being a coach, at being a dad, at being a husband, at being a pastor. You start losing those. So the words of affirmation are so important. So if you're sitting there and you feel that little tug of like, hey, I need to tell so-and-so what they mean to me, I need to write them a note, do it. They need that. That's how they find their identity. Use the correct tone. Be creative. Find a way. But make sure. And when a words of affirmation person hears those words, receives that love, they're filled, and it gives them a freedom to be themselves. It gives them a freedom to be the person that God created them to be. Right? Like we've seen that in interactions. We watch our friends, right? Where we're like, they're just not themselves anymore. Maybe what they need is those words of affirmation to get back to who they are. This Mark Twain quote, I feel like I can live by. I can live for 2 months on a good compliment. I feel like that's like me, right? Like when I read that, I was like, oh, Mark Twain fills me. Like, right? Like a good compliment, I can do anything. I've told Jamie before, like, if you want anything done, give me a compliment. Like, touch my elbow and give me a compliment, and I will run to, like, Aldi and back to pick you up a loaf of bread, right? Like, I will do anything. A good compliment. I can live for 2 months with a good compliment. That's Mark Twain, right? Diving into the Bible, a couple scriptures that really hit home to me. The first one being Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. The next one, Proverbs 25:11. A word spoken at the right time is like gold apples in a silver settings. Right? Like, words are so important. I love the Proverbs, like, right? Like, words are so important. When we use our tongue, when we give words, it's perfect. And I was thinking through, like, different ways, and I thought of a couple different Bible stories and different scripture that I was trying to use for words of affirmation. And then it dawned on me, the woman that was about ready to be stoned. So we're going to kind of dive through this in a unique way. It's from John 8:1-11. And Jesus went to the Mount of Olives, and at dawn, he went to the temple again, and he sat down and began to teach them. And then the scribes and the Pharisees, they tried to trick him, and they said, "Teacher," they said to him, "the woman was caught in the act of committing adultery." Right? Like, so they're trying to trick Jesus in this. And the law of Moses command us to stone such a woman. So what do you say? And I love what Jesus did here. He asked, this is a trap. They asked them to trap him, or this was supposed to be a trap, and they wanted to accuse him. So Jesus stooped down and started writing in the ground with his finger. Like, can you imagine that, right? Like, they just said, like, here's this woman. She deserves to be stoned. What do you say? And Jesus doesn't respond right away. He bends down and he starts writing in the sand. And we have no idea what he wrote in the sand, but he writes in the sand. And they persisted in questioning him. And then he stood and he said to them, "The one without sin among you should be the first to throw the stone at her." Then he stooped, like I feel like in my head, like if I'm Jesus there, I'm like, yeah, gotcha, mic drop, walk away, but he stoops back down and he starts writing in the sand again. And when they heard this, they left one by one, starting with the older men. And I think it's important to hear that older men part, right? Like the wiser, as I get older, I realize I'm a little bit wiser. And I feel like the older men, like, it hit right away, like, oh, crap. Yep, Jesus, you got me. I've messed up way too much to throw a stone. And then the younger guys that are, like, trying to, like, figure out another way, they wait around a little bit longer. No, you're right. I've messed up too. And they walk away. And when they heard this, they left one by one, and only he was left with the woman in the center. When Jesus stood up, he said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" You hear those words? The love that Jesus shared? Where are they? Has no one condemned you? She says, "No one, Lord. Neither do I condemn you. Go from now on and sin no more." Right? Like, there's the thing. Like, Jesus showing us the true love. But he sat with this woman who was committed adultery, who deserved to be stoned at that time. But Jesus says, "I don't condemn you. Go and do it no more." Those words, the words of love. Like, Jesus obviously tells us, like, we forgive, he forgives us from our sin. And what a beautiful words of affirmation to be forgiven from that. But Jesus uses his words to let us know so much. Words are important. We know that. Like, I could sit here for hours and hours and hours, and I won't, because I always tell you we're done by 10:45. But I could sit here for hours and hours and hours and talk about the importance of words. I could tell you story after story after story of people that shared words with me when I needed them, and it meant everything. In words when I really needed a word, and I needed a friend, I needed somebody to say something, and I didn't receive it, and how I just completely fell apart. We're built in that way. Your words are so important. The tone, how you say that, is so important. There are people that are literally your friends at school, your friends in the workplace, your friends in this community, that are literally not being themselves because they have not received the words that they need to affirm them, to let them have that freedom to be who they need to be. I'm telling you, one of the hardest things, and I love it, because one church, I'm telling you, I can't thank you enough, because I found freedom in being the pastor here. But I still struggle with that, right? Like, I struggle with sharing. A couple weeks ago in our prayer time on Thursdays, I was talking to the guys and I was sharing and I started sharing some stuff and I was like, no, I don't want to share that. They're like, no, and it came out and I ended up sharing about something I was really hurting with. But there's part of me as a pastor, it's like I can't share that. I can't be who I want to be. And that just kills me inside. Because I've dealt with that in past jobs. I've dealt with that in past hurts. And having that freedom of friends that go, no, be who you need to be. Share with us your hurt. Share with us what's going on. You don't have to wear a mask. You don't have to be. You can be who God created you to be. Right? Like, there's certain people that, Jamie and I will always say this, like, we'll talk about certain friends where, like, we love them, but, right? Like, and I feel bad saying that, but I have friends that I'm like, they drive me crazy, but man, I love them more than anything. So I will deal with that but situation, not B-U-T-T, B-U-T. Right? Like, because that's what love is. That's what friendship is. That's what's growing together. Understanding that the words. So as we went through this last 5 weeks, I hope that this has helped. I hope that it's, whether it be your relationships with friends, whether it be with your husband, wife, whether it be with just anybody, any relationship, anybody that you interact with. My hope is that this last 5 weeks we've kind of dove in deeper. Jamie and I were joking the other day of this series has been a little bit difficult because yes, we've joked about stuff, but it's also brought up a few things in our marriage that we kind of went, oh, we'll deal with that later, right? Like, to understand. But there's 3 things that this entire series that I hope, if nothing else, or if this is your first time, that I really want you to take home at the end of this. 3 quick points. Just because it's your love language doesn't mean you have to be an expert at it. Whether it be words of affirmation, physical touch, whatever, just because it's your love language does not mean you have to be an expert at it. This point is, in my head, you know the things that come out that you're like, probably shouldn't say, but I'm going to say anyways, right? Like, I love physical touch, and I feel like I'm good at it. Anyways, we'll unpack that in a later date. But I also feel love with words of affirmation, and I'm horrible at it. I want to be, like, I wanted to write those thank you notes to everybody that helped One Church launch, and I wanted you all to feel those words of what was going on in my heart, but they're still sitting in a file cabinet. I'm horrible at it. I'm working to be better, but I'm horrible at it. Just because it's your love language doesn't mean you have to be an expert at it. The second, in all relationships, you need to find the common love language. I have done more weddings in the last 4 weeks than I have done in total, like, performed in my entire time being a pastor. And every one of them doing premarital counseling. I love going through it, talking about this, and we've all made them read the Love Languages book, and they go through and they talk about it. And I share with them, there is no possible way your 2 love languages can be farther apart than Jamie and mine. There's 5 love languages. My top 2 are her bottom 2. Obviously, her top 2 are my bottom 2. Like, right? Like, we have to land on the third one. Like, I know, and she understands that. And we have to get to that common. So if you're struggling with somebody, if you're struggling with a friendship, this isn't just husband and wife. If you're struggling with a friendship, look at the ways they receive love. Look at the ways that you receive love and find the common love language. If it's physical touch, it may be an awkward one. But if you're friends, right, like find a way. Find that common love language. And the last one that I can tell you that we've struggled with, and both Jamie and I have struggled with, and we've had to just set the hard, fast rule, and I've struggled with my friends, don't feel guilty for the way that you feel love. Just because it may feel like everybody else in the world is different than you, don't feel guilty for the way that you feel love. God made you. God made you that way. And when you feel guilty, then when people try to give you those words, right? Like I explained that during gifts. Part of the reason I don't think I'm good at gifts is because I feel guilty when people give me a gift. It's not that I don't love gifts. I love, like, when somebody gives me a gift or thinks of, but I feel guilty. I feel like, oh no, now what do I have to do? There's an episode of How I Met Your Mother where they keep trying to, like, one-up each other in gifts. Like, well, let's give them a gift that will remind them about this gift that reminded them of this gift. Like, And I feel like that's me. Like, oh, I got a gift. So now I got to find a way to give a gift back to that person that gave me a gift. So it's like my heart starts fluttering, and it's like, no, I can't feel guilty about that. Dr. Chapman talks about that love is an attitude. And with appropriate behavior, it doesn't always constitute a feeling or an emotion. So we have that entire thing. So the quote that I took out of the book that I love is, and he talked about this even in the interview, is attitude and behavior make the emotion. We live in a world and in a society where we feel that emotion, right? Like we fall in love with somebody. He talks about the fact that when you fall in love with somebody in a relationship or a friendship or whatever, that there's a 2-year kind of like honeymoon period before that's gone. So even, not just like love like Jamie and my love, but like love for friendship. There's a 2-year honeymoon period that usually kind of dives off. And that emotion, we as a society try to continue to bring that emotion back. We try to find that emotion again. And instead, we have to understand that our attitude and our behavior is what make that emotion. Having the right attitude and going, you know what? They probably didn't mean to hurt me by the things they said. Having the correct behavior, having the correct tone, having that is what helps bring back that emotion, helps bring back that love. My hope, again, is that this helps unpack a little bit of the struggles that you've maybe facing with the ways that we love our friends. We talked about it at the very beginning of this series. There's multiple ways of love. This isn't all about romantic love. There's friendship love. There's family love. There's all those different things. So maybe you're dealing with something with a family member that you're just like, I can't stand it. One of the weddings we were at, it completely broke my heart. We had, multiple things. I sit down and I talk with families and I say, hey, okay, what is it that I need to look out for as the pastor? I get to be the bad guy. Like, what do we need to, is there a crazy aunt, that does something? Is there whatever? And one of the weddings we were at, the couple told me, they said, my mom and her brother do not get along, and he is going to try to come to this wedding, and he is not allowed on this premises. He's not allowed to be here. The police are known. Like, it was like this entire thing, and I was like, the heaviness of that, right? Like, what? And the bride was like, I love my uncle. He's my closest uncle. I want him here more than anything. But right, all that unpacking that drama, and I'm just like my heart breaks. My heart broke for them. And I'm like, man, this relationship. Your mom and her brother need to get in the same room, and they need to talk. They need to find their common love language. They need to get back to what they used to be. And I was too busy performing the wedding, so I couldn't also do side counseling with the mom. But right, like my heart breaks. There's so many things. There's so many friendships that I have that I'm working on. In this entire series, I've written a list of people that I'm like, hey, I need to get back. I need to figure out something. That was something beautiful, and I messed that up. God calls us to love. God calls us to care. God calls us to do so many wonderful things, and He calls that. Be part of that. Will you pray? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you. We thank you for loving us. We thank you for the reminder of what love is. From the scriptures in Proverbs to the woman that was going to be stoned, we've all messed up. We've all fallen short. We've all screwed up, God. But you promised to be with us. You promised to show us love and to love us, to walk through that. When we struggle with somebody, may we turn back and be more like you. When we really feel like we can't show them love anymore, may we turn and lay that at your feet and learn to love again. When we struggle to feel love ourselves, God, may we not turn to worldly things, but turn to you. The true demonstration of love. We love and we thank you, God. Thank you for a wonderful opportunity to just dive in deep. It's in your name we pray. Amen.